Another end to the week. Another hot news. Are y'all ready to get toasty, cozy, moist? Wait, no, not that. Let's move on. Hot news time. Firstly, we have an update to a story that we reported on yesterday. We mentioned that Apple had informed Intel that they would not be moving forward with the best jingle makers of all time on their 5G modems. Yeah. That's right, Reece. Even a failing chip company can make better jingles than you. Anyways, in that story, it was mentioned that Intel had canceled their Sunny Peak program and shifted the engineers to other projects. Intel sent out a statement yesterday claiming the exact opposite, stating, quote, Intel's 5G customer engagements and roadmap have not changed for 2018 through 2020. We remain committed to our 5G plans and projects, end quote. That appears to be in direct contradiction to the report that came out yesterday. Intel seems to indicate that they haven't canned the project, nor have they lost any customers. It should be noted, though, that the original article mentions that when they reached Intel for comment initially on the report that they were going to release, Intel's response was that they don't comment on matters pertaining to its customers. However, it was only after the article was published that they issued their statement saying that their customers and roadmaps are unaffected. It kind of seems like a peculiar move by Intel to decline to make a comment when given the opportunity, but then addressing the scandalous news once they saw it was making the rounds on the media. It seems like damage control to keep their shareholders happy on something that still could potentially be accurate. We won't know more unless the story develops further, because right now it's a reporter versus an entire company, and we can't actually get the news unless they confirm that Apple has indeed canceled their order. But I just wanted to give you all a quick update on the story to make sure that you're up to date. Then let's move on into news that should absolutely terrify you. MIT just released a video showcasing their Cheetah 3 dog bot that is full of all sorts of terrifying features, including the fact that it's blind with no camera input at all. It can run at up to 3 meters per second. It can pronk. Yeah, pronk, a word you hadn't heard of, but should now send cold shivers down your spine no matter how hot our news is. Then they freaking show it climbing upstairs without camera input, with freaking obstacles and loose items on the stairs, and it can't see. Then they show it jumping 30 inches onto a platform. My friends, I suggest that if you want to sleep tonight, you watch that video with the audio off. I can just imagine a future where I'm lying in bed and I hear the slow pattern of as I try to remember the good old days when murderous dog robots didn't roam the streets looking for its next victim. My friends, I can tell you that if they are coming for you, there is no escaping them. You cannot run up the stairs. You cannot put obstacles in their path. They will leap over them. They will climb over them. They don't even need to see you. They can smell your fears. And guess what? They're programmed with that AI we talked about yesterday from Quake, where they know how to roam terrain that they haven't even seen before, and then they murder you. They literally murder you in your sleep, and then they capture your flag because that's what they're trained to do. I am not ready for this. I'm scared. AI that can learn how to murder opponents in games, dog bots that are basically indestructible. No. The future, too gosh dang much. Freaking don't want no dog bots pronking in my neighborhood. No siree. But let's uplift our spirits by looking to Papa Elon, who has warned us of this horrifying future, and let's gaze upon the good deeds that he is embarking upon. If you haven't heard, there's a children's soccer team in Thailand that is trapped in a cave due to a whole host of terrifying factors that happen one after another that are leaving them stranded for quite some time until the rainy season is over, and at the current moment, rescuing them is basically impossible. It appears that Elon Musk is helping by sending some of his team from the Boring Company as well as Tesla to aid in the potential rescue of the children, which has already seen one of the rescue team party members die due to trying to deliver oxygen to the children trapped in a cave. It appears that Boring and Tesla will be assisting with their ground radar technology as well as power packs to help power the pumps that are help keeping the 12 boys alive. I think I can speak for everybody here that I hope that this has the best resolution possible and that all of these kids survive. It's kind of hard to transition out of a story like that. It appears that the EU wants the people's input as to whether or not they should keep daylight savings. They're conducting a public poll that's open until August 16th. The obvious answer is no. get rid of it. It's a stupid, broken, ancient invention that has little benefit in the modern world. Destroy it, abolish it, pronk on it with murderous dog bots. Be gone, daylight savings time. I obviously say this as a father whose children have no concept of daylight savings and just perpetually lose sleep no matter which way the clock ticks, because they're either waking up early or they're staying up late. It's been a welcome reprieve to be in South Africa where they don't follow such garbage traditions. And then it appears that EA has dropped 20 minutes of Anthem gameplay to the interwebs. It's hard not to get excited by this game. Flying mech warriors that can blast baddies with future weapons and can swim as well? Yes, please. But let's not forget that this is EA. I can't wait to have to pay them for DLC to actually use my right-click attack, to use the jump mechanic, and the ability to actually play online, because those, of course, should be sold separately. Anybody who complains about this, well, I don't care about your problems. And if you're looking for a new TV to play this game on and have unlimited budget, which obviously I would presume you would since you can afford to pay for the DLC for the basic functionality, well, ASUS has officially listed their 65-inch 4K HDR 120Hz monitor on their website. By monitor, I meant TV. The PG65 is probably the most aggressive TV design I've ever seen and has specs that are quite unbelievable. No, literally. We already reported on their 4K monitors, and it will be impossible for this TV to do 120Hz 4K HDR without chroma subsampling, which lowers the resolution, or some form of compression. The best you'll get is 100Hz HDR or 120Hz without HDR, unless they plan to include support for HDMI 2.1 or dual DisplayPort inputs. Regardless of the fact that it won't actually be able to do what they're quoting it for, this beast of a display won't come cheap. There's no listed price, but considering that the 27-inch monitor that they already released costs $2,000, and it's been shown that the G-Sync HDR module alone can cost upwards of $500, I'm expecting this thing to come in at roughly $3,500 to $4,000 bucks. $3,500 to $4,000 bucks. But if you're looking for something more affordable and reasonable, Philips might have something for you. They announced a 43-inch 4K HDR TV that features adaptive sync between 20 and 80 Hz, 1000 nits brightness for that HDR, 4 millisecond gray-to-gray response time with a quantum dot VA panel. Now, I did say this is more affordable, but it's still a pricey penny. But if you compare it to the ASUS PG65, it's more like, you know, butt wiping money. You can just spare it. You can get it for $1,000 in the US on Amazon or 840 pounds on Amazon UK. If you're picking one of these up, feel free to use our Amazon affiliate code. Then in helpful AI news instead of terrifying ones, Google has successfully used machine learning to raise the installation of apps on the Play Store by 3.3% by making sure that their recommendations are meeting users' needs in a more useful manner. Good guy AI at work here. And it appears that the Samsung Galaxy S9 is the worst performing flagship phone for the company since the launch of the Galaxy S3. They're expecting only to ship 31 million units of the phone this year. This is in comparison to the record-setting Galaxy S7, which hit 50 million units. This terrible sales news, combined with the disappointing iPhone X sales, indicates, I think at least, our growing weariness of buying a new flagship every single year, especially when modern mid-range phones can honestly meet most people's needs just fine. What do you think though? Let me know your smartphone opinions down in the comments. Now it's time for me to update a story that we reported on Wednesday with regards to the Micron ban from China. And this also will be considered an update to a story we mentioned 2 weeks ago where RAM companies were facing fines of up to $8 billion for price fixing. So let's just jump into it. So in the Micron story from a couple days ago, it was reported that the Chinese government was banning the Idaho-based company from selling their products in China because of patent violations from other Taiwanese and Chinese-based companies. At the time, Micron declined to comment. However, it appears that today they've issued a response confirming the ban from China. At the time of the initial report, Micron's stock plummeted 8%, but today the company stated that of the products that are being banned, they only make up 1% of their annual revenue, so there's really no big deal or reason to freak out here. So that's all great, but not really worth an update. There's more to the story that ties into another story that was posted about that $8 billion RAM fine. Micron mentioned that they believe the patent claims that are causing their ban from China are in retaliation to indictments that they filed with Taiwan against UMC, 3 of its employees, and a civil lawsuit against UMC and Jinhua that's terrible pronunciation, for the misappropriation of Micron's trade secrets. It appears that after Micron filed these complaints against the companies and their employees, that is when they retaliated with their own lawsuit in China instead of Taiwan, where Micron had filed their claims. Micron submitted evidence during the trial in China showing that the patents are invalid because, quote, they are directed to technologies that were previously developed and patented in other countries by other technology companies, end quote. So Micron appears to be in the right with the claims against the patents, and the ban is just an axe to grind by these other companies. This then ties into the report that China is suspected of stealing Samsung and SK Hynix patents. That's the report coming out of the Korea Times. They report that Chinese companies are suspected of stealing the intellectual property of Samsung and SK Hynix or other memory companies to obtain technological know-how from them, stating, quote, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix have become the target of industrial espionage by Chinese memory chip manufacturers, end quote. It appears that the Chinese manufacturers are struggling with their own memory designs and are attempting to get trade secrets in order to become major players in the DRAM scene because they're not able to do it themselves. The article states that it's unclear whether the Chinese government is behind the patent thefts, but some people involved in this whole rigmarole believe that the Chinese government is looking into the price fixing as a way of pressuring the companies to share patented technologies that would be used to boost their Chinese competitors. So it looks like these Chinese companies are getting assistance by the Chinese government, by the government being like, hey, we're looking into your price fixing. Give them your secrets. So the Micron ban could be then seen as a warning shot across the bow of the memory manufacturers that they should comply because the Chinese government isn't afraid to cause harm to their bottom lines in order to achieve what it wants to achieve. And the investigation into price fixing could simply be dismissed if, they were willing to assist the Chinese companies on their development of their own products. Obviously, some of this is conjecture, but it presents a more nuanced perspective of the entire situation besides just some sort of customer vindication. Hey, you're price fixing, stop that. That's bad for people. It appears that there's likely tons of politics at play with this RAM fine, and most of it has nothing to do with the actual price fixing allegations. And they may not even be price fixing. It could just be that it's what they say it is. It's bad supply with a lot of demand, and it's causing price hikes. It's a possibility. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's just, it might not be as clear-cut as it seems. And I think that this was something that I did a poor job of communicating when discussing this story 2 weeks ago. The benefit that an $8 billion fine would present to consumers would be basically non-existent. The Chinese government would get all of that money, and the consumers, either best case scenario, just get nothing besides the woes of having to deal with high RAM prices for the past year or so, or worst case scenario, would have the cost of the fine passed down to them by more increases in the RAM pricing. It's not a good situation no matter which way you slice it, and isn't the same as a class action lawsuit where lawyers get rich and customers get a small rebate for their troubles. This looks like it's a political situation more than it is anything about the actual pricing of DRAM. But I want your opinions. What do you think of this whole situation? Let's have a conversation about that down below in the comments. And that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode of Hot News. I hope you guys are going into the weekend very toasty. Be sure to hit that like button. If you enjoyed this video, please get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. We'll have another episode of Hot News for you on Monday. Be back right in the saddle. That's when our editor also gets back, so we will be releasing other types of tech content, not just Hot News. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me. I really appreciate you. I'm Brett Stickle Monster. I've just dealt you your Hot News. Thanks for watching, and I'll see your smiling faces again in the next video. Cheers. Why? Why do you have to fall at the last second?